Hello everyone, Dan Sanchez here with another video on SQL. In this video I'd like to share with you the group by clause and how that relates to aggregate functions. So we'll be covering those aggregate functions. These include count, sum, min, max, average. There are a bunch of others, but we'll be focusing on those. They do need a group by clause to determine how to aggregate the information and to group it by a certain column or columns. We'll be looking at single and multiple columns here, and also single and multiple tables. So we'll be looking at joins, single and multi-joins as well. And I'm adding an extra little bonus component here to show how to format information as a currency. So we're in the Northwind database again, and I have our series of subtasks or tasks here. And the first one is to show the supplier company name and the count of how many products we get from that supplier, and to order by company name. So this starts out as a basic select statement. We're selecting company name from the suppliers table and aliasing that in as supplier company name. Here's the count aggregation. We're counting product ID from the products table. This is actually counting the primary key of the products table, aliased in as P. And then this column's aliased as number of products. Here's our table from suppliers as S. And you notice the S.company name. Suppliers as S. We're joining products as P on these terms. So supplier ID from the suppliers table being equal to the supplier ID of the products table. Up next is the group by clause. We're grouping by company name because this count of product ID, we want to see the count of that product ID by company name. We're grouping that by the company name and then ordering that by company name as well. So we'll run this query and we can see the supplier company name listed here and the count of the products that supplier provides here. All right, number 2 is to show the supplier company name and the average unit price of products from that supplier. And in this one, we're only including products that are not discontinued. Just a little additional condition. So once again, this looks very similar to the previous query. Select company name again as supplier company name. And now we are selecting the average unit price from the products table. And you'll notice I have some nested functions here. So we're formatting this. This is that bonus step. Formatting this in this section right here as currency. That C stands for currency. As average unit price, aliasing that in. And I'll show you what that does in a second. So we're pulling this from the suppliers table as S, joining that with products as P again on supplier ID equaling supplier ID from suppliers and products. Here's that condition we're adding where the discontinued binary column from the products table is not equal to 1, which means that it is not discontinued, that these products are not discontinued. That's what we're looking for. Once again, we're grouping by company name and ordering by company name. And let's see how this looks. So we have now supplier company name and the average unit price of the products that are from that supplier. And they're represented in a nice looking currency format because we added this format function here. Now let's take this out and I'll show you what that does. Let's run this again and we'll see what this column will look like without the formatting applied. So you notice that the dollar sign's gone and we have a bunch of decimal, a bunch of zeros at the end of a lot of these. So the currency formatting reduces it to 2 decimal spaces and adds a dollar sign in there. So number 3, let's show the category name and a few aggregations here: minimum, maximum, and average price of products in each category. We're pulling from the categories table now, you can see down here. So this is another select statement. We're looking at category name from the categories table as category name. And I've also included a currency formatting here to show a few more instances of that. So we're looking at the minimum of unit price in the products table, formatted with C as minimum price. And we're looking at the maximum unit price here with C4 as maximum price, and the average unit price again, this time by category, and with C0 as the formatting option as average price. This is coming once again from the categories table, aliased in as C, and joining products as P on these terms, where category ID in the categories table is equal to the category ID in the products table. We're grouping by category name and also category ID, and ordering in that way as well. Let's just run this and take a look. Now we have the category name, minimum, maximum, average price. And we can see here how the different options of formatting as currency appear. So with this option of C, with nothing else, gives us what you'd expect to find as a US dollar currency expression. A C4 specifies 4 spaces after the decimal point. So if for whatever reason there were additional numbers past the 2 spaces there, you'd see that listed. And C0 takes out the decimal spaces, so it just leaves basically an integer. This also rounds the unit price if we had that listed there. So let's actually see an example of that real fast. So taking out the 0 of average price and running again, we can see this was $37.98 in the beverages category. So if we specify we want 0 now and run this again, this $37.98 becomes 38. So it rounds up in that case. And now our last task is to show each product ID, its product name, and a count of how many orders it has appeared on. And we're limiting this to only orders that were placed in January of 1997. So we need to pull from a few tables here for all of this information. Let's take a look at these columns that are selected. So, and I didn't bother aliasing in the table names here, just to be a little clearer. So we're selecting products.product ID as product ID, products.product name as product name, and the count of product ID from the order details table, aliasing that in as 1997 count of orders from these tables. So we're starting with products, joining order details on these terms, the product ID of products being equal to the product ID in the order details table. And we're also joining the orders table on the order details order ID being equal to the orders order ID. So that's a multi-join there. We've got three tables at play. We're adding in this condition where the year in the order date from the orders table is equal to 1997. And we're grouping by product ID from the products table, product name from the products table, ordering by product ID here. And you'll notice we've got the year set as 1997. But what about this January here? Let's add another condition here. So the year from orders.orderDate is equal to 1997, and the month from that same place should be equal to January. Let's run this and just double check that that gives us what we're looking for. And you can see that this didn't quite give us what we're looking for. So sometimes this can happen, and Azure will tell you what is going on here. I typed in January, and the value of that month is an integer. So let's change that to 01. And that should give us what we're looking for. So this does give us a table with product ID, product name, and the count of, we'll put in there January 1997 count of orders. There we go.